This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
The International Energy Agency has proposed the largest release of oil reserves in its history to restrain soaring crude prices amid the U.S.-Israel war with Iran, the Wall Street Journal said on Tuesday, citing officials familiar with the matter. The release would exceed the 182 million barrels of oil that IEA member nations put on the market in two releases in 2022 when Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the newspaper said. The IEA called an extraordinary meeting of members on Tuesday, with nations expected to decide on the proposal the following day, the paper added.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Tuesday plans for a new oil refinery to be built in Brownsville, Texas, thanking Indian energy company Reliance Industries for its role in the project. Trump made the announcement as U.S. drivers are reacting to a spike in gasoline prices following the start of the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran, and while Republicans and Democrats gear up for midterm elections that could determine which party controls Congress through the last 2 years of Trump's presidency. America First Refining said in a statement that a 168,000 barrel per day, BPD, refinery to be built at the port of Brownsville along the U.S.-Mexico border, when operating, would offset $300 billion in the U.S. trade deficit.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Japan should do more to reduce its reliance on imported fossil fuels, the chair of the Renewable Energy Institute said, after the escalating Middle East conflict halted tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, underlining Japan's vulnerability to geopolitical risks. Japan relies on the region for about 95% of its crude oil and 11% of its liquefied natural gas imports, with roughly 70% and 6% respectively shipped through the strait. The channel's closure has triggered sharp spikes in fuel prices, hitting energy-importing economies, such as Japan, the hardest. Thomas Kaburga, the chair of the Tokyo-based IEA's executive board and a longtime observer of Japan's energy system, said the country needed to reduce vulnerability by cutting dependence on fossil fuels.
A surge in Indian overnight indexed swap, OIS, rates, typically a key barometer of policy rate expectations in normal times, is overstating the likely impact of the Iran war and higher oil prices on domestic monetary policy, traders and economists said. India's 1-year and 2-year OIS rates jumped more than 45 basis points each since the Israeli-US war with Iran broke out on February 28, while the benchmark 10-year bond yield has risen by a more modest 11 basis points through Monday, before paring some of the increase. At current levels, swap rates are pricing in close to 2 rate hikes by the Reserve Bank of India over the next 12 months. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Aluminium prices rebounded on Wednesday, as focus shifted back to the loss of global supply amid conflict in the Middle East following a brief sell-off triggered by U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks on the Iran war. The most traded aluminium contract on the Shanghai Futures Exchange added 2.31% to 25,275 yuan, $3,680.81 per metric ton, as of 0213 GMT. The contract lost 1.41% on Tuesday as Trump's comments suggesting an end to the Iran war soon temporarily cooled supply concern. Benchmark 3-month aluminium on the London Metal Exchange was up 0.5% at $3,423 per ton. It touched nearly a 4-year high at $3,544 on Monday.
Zambia is courting global investors, including from the United States, as it aims to more than triple its copper output to 3 million metric tons by 2031, its mines minister said on Tuesday. Africa's second-largest copper producer after Democratic Republic of Congo is seen as one of the countries Washington is keen to partner with as the U.S. escalates efforts to loosen China's grip on materials crucial to advanced manufacturing. Zambia produced 890,346 tons of copper last year, missing an annual target of 1 million ton. The red metal is a key material in electric vehicles and renewable energy infrastructure vital for the transition to a low-carbon economy.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
The world will have more corn on hand than previously expected, the U.S. Department of Agriculture said on Tuesday, as the Iran war has fueled uncertainty over how much of the grain farmers will plant this spring. Prices for fertilizer and fuel spiked as the war has closed the Strait of Hormuz, shut down fertilizer plants in the Middle East and upset shipping routes. The disruptions have left some farmers in the Northern Hemisphere scrambling for supplies just as they prepare to put seeds in the ground. U.S. grain and soy futures touched multi-month highs on Monday, despite expectations for ample supplies, as traders worried the war would drag on and oil prices rallied.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.